Good evening. Welcome tonight to the third series of debates for the Rockville elections that are coming up in about 3 weeks. Tonight, I'm Lynna Barnes, and I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Montgomery County. Tonight, we are here to sponsor this debate between the candidates now for the City Council. I want to first mention what the League is. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization which fosters civic involvement around the country. I know many of you are familiar with the presidential debates that the League sponsors, but we also on the local level do such things as county debates with candidates, and here in this case, a municipal debate. We're very happy to be here tonight, and we think this will be a wonderful way in which the citizens of Rockville can find out what their candidates think. I want to thank the City of Rockville for sponsoring this debate and for Channel 11 for putting it on tonight. They're doing the filming and the recording. So, with that said, I also will want to thank our volunteers. The League volunteers are here tonight to help out. And, of course, the candidates who have come tonight to give you their views. And finally, all of you who are viewing this and here in the audience tonight. This is a very important part of civic responsibility, and we're very pleased that you are becoming informed on the issues surrounding this campaign. So, first let's turn to how the debate will run. I hope that you have all silenced your cell phones because that will interrupt the debate if they go off. Please put them on airplane mode because then they won't vibrate. Vibrate can interfere with the sound system. We will have opening statements of 1 minute and closing statements of 1 minute. The order in which these will be given was arranged with a random drawing. And so I will be calling on the candidates who drew numbers to see in which order they would go. There is also a random order for the questions, which I will call on each candidate. Rather than just going down the line, we are going to be using an order in which was drawn previous to this, and I have. Each candidate will get a chance to go first in this order, but there will be random drawings. We're also gathering questions from the audience, so if you have any that you would like to give to us, please do so. The lady in red will collect those, and there are cards at the front if you want to fill a question out. Finally, I want to mention there'll be a section in the middle in which there'll be crosstalk, in which only 3 candidates will be answering the question directly. Then we will move to the other 3 candidates, and they will have a chance to either respond to what the previous candidates have said or give their own answers to that same question. So, with those rules put in place, I want to make sure the candidates know to watch our timer in the middle, who has 1 minute, 30 seconds, and 15-second cards, and stop. And she will put them up, and I will ask you to stop speaking once the stop sign goes up. So, with that said, we're going to go to the random order which was drawn by our candidates, and Mr. Moore will make the first opening statement.
Thank you. Hello, and thank you for coming tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this. It's always nice to be in the hands of true professionals. I am Councilmember Tom Moore. I'm finishing up my first term on the Rockville City Council. When I ran in 2011, I promised you thoughtful and fact-based leadership. I've kept my promise. Specifically, here's what I've done to earn your vote again. I led on responsible budgeting. I was instrumental in crafting 2 budgets that kept city services strong and property tax rates steady. I led the way in preserving and protecting our affordable neighborhoods. When the homes of 236 moderate-income families in Fireside Park were threatened by private developers, I championed the effort to direct the city's housing authority to buy the apartments and keep them affordable. I stood up for strong public ethics laws. When others sought to reduce how much we public officials have to disclose about our finances, I worked successfully at the city and state levels to keep our ethics laws strong. And I led the way in protecting your privacy, put a spotlight on how much data the government should keep on people not suspected of doing anything wrong. Again, thank you. I'm looking forward to this debate tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Ms. Whitaker is our second speaker.
I grew up in Rockville and went to Richard Montgomery High School, one of the finest high schools in the nation. I am running as an independent voice for Rockville in the elections. I stand for preserving hometown feel of Rockville and the neighborhoods, engaging residents in all city matters, supporting sustainable development with a minimum of disruption to our residents, managing city debt responsibly, keeping taxes and fees under control. Our water bills are too high. Protecting the environment and green space, providing a comfortable and affordable environment for seniors. I am endorsed in this election by Senator Jenny Forhan, County Council Member Mark Elrich, and Gaithersburg Mayor Sidney Katz, and of course, the current Mayor Phyllis Marcuccio. I hope to expand on these points during the debate.
Thank you. Ms. Feinberg, you are third.
Good evening. I am Beryl Feinberg, candidate for City Council. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. I am here tonight to present my credentials as a leader and policymaker in local government. Simply stated, I get things done. For more than 2 decades, I have dedicated my life to making our county a better place to live, work, and play, and now I want to share that expertise with my hometown, Rockville. I want to preserve our neighborhoods while visioning the future. Professional colleagues and friends alike describe me as a results-oriented leader, analytical, and a budget geek, and compassionate about services to those in need. I have worked with elected, appointed, and merit county officials and am able to work with everyone. I hope this evening you will see these traits. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Onley.
Good evening. My name is Virginia Onley, and I have lived in Rockville for 20 years and served on 9 boards, commissions, and task force. The latest was the Rockville Enterprise Housing Board and also the 2012 Charter Review Commission. I live at the Americana Center, and I'm running because I believe neighborhoods are entitled to equal consideration in the fiscal and operational decisions that affect our city. I want to bridge that gap that exists that make people feel that they're not represented, regardless of where they live and where I live. As a member of Rockville Enterprise Housing, I have championed affordable housing within our city. We need to ensure that our residents are well represented, whether they are grocery store workers or teachers. I also have been endorsed by former Mayor Rose Kresnow, and I am looking forward to serving you as a Rockville City Council member.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley.
I also bid you good evening. I'm a 40-year practitioner of law in this area and the chairman of the City Planning Commission. With 2 weeks to go, we're approaching the latter stages of our campaign. Tonight's debate, the last of the televised debates, offers the opportunity to focus on the issues and to weigh the character and the ability of the candidates. I'm here because of conviction, not ambition. I'm convinced that our major issues are so intertwined that it would be tragic to try to place any one of them above the others. Development has to coordinate with schools, with traffic, with nurturing our neighborhoods, with honoring our diversity, with providing affordable housing and senior services, fixing our infrastructure, paying our bills, and so forth. It all stands together. I do not offer quick, single-issue fixes. I offer substantial experience, depth of analysis, sound judgment, and the ability to represent and work respectfully with everyone to get the job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Polakovich Carr.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing tonight's event. The previous 5 debates have highlighted numerous differences among the candidates. On November 5th, you as voters will make your decision based on our qualification, visions for the city, and ability to work together to address the needs of the city. I've spent much of my time in Rockville working to improve our city. I served as vice chair of the City Services and Budget Working Group. I chaired the Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance Review Committee, and I'm currently serving my 2nd term on the city's Environment Commission. I will bring a balanced and sustainable approach to city government. I'm running for city council to help ensure that Rockville remains a great place to live. by maintaining high-quality services, pursuing a balanced approach to new development, and planning for the city's long-term fiscal health. I will work with the mayor and other members of the council to represent the needs of all of Rockville as we make key decisions about the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all those opening statements. So we're going to start with our first question. And as I said, this is random order. Ms. Feinberg will be starting with this question. It just happened that way, even though she is first in the row. But let me ask this question. What do you see as the role of the city commissions and boards? Do we need them all? How could they be made more effective?
Thank you. I just want to write down what the question was.
Yes.
Yes, I do think we need the boards and commissions. I see the boards and commissions as a training ground for us to engage our many diverse populations in the city. It is a perfect place for us to reach out to our Hispanic and our Asian community and African Americans amongst us as a place where they can get experience and hopefully go for higher office. In terms of do we need them, yes, I think they serve an advisory capacity and as some sort of checks and balances for what is going on both within the city government and with your elected officials. Do we need all of them? I think it is something that periodically you need to review. Do you need all the boards and commissions? We've recently had some additional boards and commissions created, and I think we need to periodically review and see, are they serving their purpose?
Thank you. Second in this is going to be Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Well, I think that the city boards and commissions provided an important opportunity for residents to be engaged in city government and to provide advice to the mayor and council. In addition to being reactionary to the needs of the elected officials, I think the boards and commissions can also play an important role in starting new initiatives. For instance, on the Environment Commission right now, one of the things we're debating and discussing is starting a competition to encourage residents to reduce their energy usage. In terms of the question of do we need them all, I would agree with Ms. Feinberg that periodic review would be appropriate, but none come to mind at this point that I think are past due in terms of their time.
Thank you. Mr. Moore, you're third.
Thank you. It's true that our boards and commissions are training grounds for hopefully for leaders to eventually go into the mayor and council. But I think they're much more important than that. We actually added two commissions this term, a financial advisory board, which I helped shape and voted for, and an ethics commission, which is new to the city. This one's not just going to be advisory. The ethics commission will have real teeth and will be policing the behavior of everybody who's on the mayor and council. It is very important to Rockville's system of citizen-oriented government to have citizens advising the mayor and council and policing the mayor and council. So it's, I think we are in a good spot with them. We have a lot of different commissions doing a lot of different tasks. I have looked at the full list, and I don't see any that obviously need to be trimmed. But yes, it is something that periodically the city should look at.
Okay. That was you, Mr. Moore. Yes. Mr. Hadley, you are next.
Well, I have to ditto those previous comments and maybe save us time by not re-elaborating them. The one concept that I would add to that is that we should have our commissions and our boards review their purposes and their functions. I think part of the review process is to find not only those that may not be as functional or as needed, but also to see if there are other services or other boards or commissions that are needed for other topics. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Onley?
Okay. I think we do need our boards and commissions. With federal, state, and local workers in Montgomery College, we need to continue to tap into that resource. There's a lot of talent here, and I think we haven't done a grassroots effort to make sure that we get more people involved. And as your council member, I promise you that I'll reach out and try to get more participation with residents of our neighborhoods. We also need to look at what their mission is, because periodically I think we need to refresh what the mission of the boards and commissions are and make sure that they are on target to what the city needs. Thank you.
And finally, Ms. Whitaker.
Yes, I think obviously the boards and commissions are important because when someone participates in a board, they have a stake in its future. And this is citizen involvement, and I think it's very important. I think we should go to the citizens organizations like Twin Brook or King Farm or whatever to try to pull people from those organizations in staffing, in our putting people onto the commissions. I would suggest that we use these advisory commissions more because I think that the mayor and city council needs input from the citizens. And one way would be, I'm very interested in local businesses, and I would think it would be very useful to have an advisory board on local businesses and perhaps the idea of moderate priced business units like we have.
Okay, thank you. As a follow-up to that question, let me ask, and we'll start with Mr. Hadley, ask whether the current way of appointing people to the commissions is working and whether it should be changed.
Well, it's working in the sense that we're populating our boards and commissions. The truth is we have a number of vacancies right now. And is that a failure of appointment or a failure of people coming forward? I think it's more the latter. So I think the only thing I would interject into our methodology, which is mayor and or council appointment, and sometimes boards and commissions actually appoint further sub-boards and commissions. But the only thing I would add to that ingredient, I think, is what I would call publicity or drumming up business, if I'm being cute. I think many people don't really understand the functions of our boards and commissions, and we need to make them more noticeable and more available and more accountable. Thank you.
Ms. Feinberg, you're next.
Thank you very much. I think we should do more to get people on the boards and commissions. What I think we should have both our city neighborhood outreach people as well as we should go where our different ethnic communities, where they shop, where they recreate, where they go to church, where they do business, and try and make an effort to get more people on our boards and commissions that are more reflective and representative of the population of this city.
Thank you. Ms. Onley.
Okay. Well, I think we do need to take a look at our current boards and commissions, because if you're paying attention, you notice that a lot of the people who volunteer are the same people who volunteer. And I think with the number of residents that are here in the city, we could use a refresh. I think we need to reach into the neighborhoods and really try to foster other people volunteering. It's nice that we have our steadfast volunteers, but it would be good to have a change. I also would like to suggest term limits. People serve for so many terms, and then we refresh and get some new blood, new ideas on our boards and commissions.
Thank you. Next is Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Thank you. I think at times it has been slow in terms of appointing people for vacancies on various boards and commissions. Not for lack of qualified applicants, but just it sometimes is slow for people to step forward and to actually want to make that commitment. I think one thing that's worked well in the Environment Commission is that we have 3 subcommittees that are open to anyone who lives in the city or who works in the city. And actually that's been a great training ground and way to recruit people to serve on the Environment Commission. People get a chance to see what types of issues we're working on, what the time commitment is like, and to start to get to know the issues. And we've actually filled a number of vacancies on the Environment Commission during my 3.5 years on the commission by recruiting volunteers from those 3 working groups.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Moore.
So the system we have right now is that the mayor appoints and then the council approves. This system very much depends on the mayor collaborating with the council. It's tricky because sometimes an appointment is made and the council members do not want to criticize a citizen publicly who is offered to serve the city. But sometimes there's an appointment that just shouldn't be confirmed. So in order to avoid that kind of public fight, it's really incumbent upon the mayor to collaborate closely with council members beforehand to make sure that people that they put up for appointment will actually get confirmed. This term, I got to say that has not always been the case. I think we have a lot of room for improvement there. We're going to have a new mayor next term. I have high hopes that this collaboration will improve.
Thank you. Let's move on to a different topic. Does Rockville need more affordable housing? If yes, what approach do you suggest? If not, why not? And Ms. Whitaker, you're first.
Okay, can I respond to the last question because you forgot me, I think? But that's okay.
I did?
I can just take.
I'm sorry, then I am so sorry.
I can just take 2 minutes. I mean,
No, you take
30 seconds.
So you
No, just
will
30
be
seconds.
first and last and first. I apologize for
Okay.
that. Thank you. So talk about the commissions first.
Okay, I
and-
will just say
Okay.
that, as I mentioned before, I think we should go to the neighborhood organizations and ask them to recruit people for the commissions, because that way there's a coordination between the neighborhoods and the people that are interested in getting involved in the city. And if I could go on to the affordable
Okay,
housing
so now you'll have
issue.
your full minute for the affordable
Well,
housing.
there are two kinds of affordable housing in the city. There's the affordable housing that is not subsidized. That's, for instance, in Twin Brook, you can still buy a house for $250,000, which I think is an affordable home for most people. And then there's the affordable housing that is subsidized. And I think that we have a good amount of both right now. I'm for affordable housing, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And I think Rockville is a great place for people who are starting off and want to raise a family. In Twin Brook, you can expand your house and live there. Some of my old Richard Montgomery classmates are actually still living in the Twin Brook houses. So, yeah, I think we're doing a good job.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley, you're next.
Well, I'd like to see a somewhat different approach added to what we do. And my concern in the involvement that I've had in it is that our policies tend to favor the construction and population of larger projects. And the reason for that is so that the affordable housing dollars will go as far as possible, that is to maximize the units in a project. And sometimes that conflicts with community values, sometimes it conflicts with spatial values, that is large next to small. And I think we need to review what our affordable housing policy is in terms of encouraging enlargement of that, but enlargement of that through balanced integration of affordable housing into our communities rather than trying to make it so clustered in single spots. That's not economic, I realize, but I think it's a larger social issue that we need to grasp. Thank you.
Okay. Then we will go to Mr. Moore.
The City of Rockville has a strong policy of encouraging affordable housing and trying to get more of it in the city. I absolutely think that we don't have enough. We are hundreds of units short of what we need. The waiting lists for people who would like to have an affordable unit in this city is hundreds of people long. I think what we need to do is to continue to look for opportunities to either build new affordable housing or preserve what we have. Victory Housing, a affordable housing for seniors near town center, is a good example of creating new housing. Fireside Park is a good example that the mayor and council this term took on to preserve affordable housing that was endangered by private developers who wanted to come in and force folks out with higher rents. I think between those two things we can make some progress, but the city needs to make it, keep it a very high priority and not rest on its laurels. We are absolutely nowhere near close to where we need to be.
Thank you. Ms. Onley.
Thank you. As a member of Rockville Housing Enterprises Board, I can tell you that we have a severe shortage of affordable homes. When we open our wait list, and Councilmember Moore said, there are hundreds or actually thousands of people in one day who apply for affordable housing. We were fortunate to be able to purchase Fireside Park Apartments where we preserved 236 moderate to low income homes for the families that live there. But we are a far cry from having enough affordable homes. There are college graduates, police officers, firefighters, grocery store workers, teachers that can't afford expensive homes, and it is the greatest urgency that we rise to the occasion and get more affordable homes for Rockville residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Thank you. Well, affordable housing really is a big issue in Rockville. As any of us who own a house can attest what's happened with home prices, and for those of us who rent, rents have gone up as well in recent years as well as over the last decade. So this is a big issue, and given our proximity to the district, this isn't going to get any easier over time. We need to make sure that we have housing that is affordable for all types of people, but especially for people of moderate incomes, people like teachers and police officers. They're the ones that are getting squeezed out of the market here, I think. The city does have a number of excellent programs for providing affordable housing, the requirement for moderately priced dwelling units in new development, as well as the excellent work that Rockville Housing Enterprises does. It's important that we continue those endeavors and continue to support those programs.
Thank you. And of course, it's Ms. Feinberg to end this round.
Thank you very much. In my 14 years with Montgomery County's Office of Management and Budget, the Department of Housing and Community Affairs has been under me as with analysts, and I have continually supported funds for affordable housing for the Montgomery Housing Initiative. So absolutely, I definitely believe in increased affordable housing. I have seen the needs across the county as well as within the city. I would also like to see, not only do you have to have the money for affordable housing, but in order to make sure that those housing units, the housing stock is maintained. And in the county, there is a revolving loan fund to do exactly that. I would like to see something like that perhaps in the city. I also see it as a way to get young professionals into the city. As part of the Rockville Summit recommendations, trying to get young professionals who would live and work in the city, this can be a gateway for them later on when maybe they have paid those college loans, that they would be able to purchase a home in the city.
Thank you. Let's move to our fourth question. If you agree that the city should control its own development, does it make sense to give up that control to MCPS, Montgomery County Public Schools, when the adequate public facilities action order prevents development due to the lack of schools? So we're going to start with Mr. Moore.
The question's a little convoluted. I'll take a shot at it. One of my major concerns with our adequate public facilities ordinance is that it tries to control 4 different public facilities. Traffic, which we do control, sewer and water, which we do control, and then fire and rescue, which we don't control, and schools, which the city just simply does not control. So yeah, in some ways, the future of the city for the last 7 years and going forward is in the totally in the power of how much money MCPS decides to spend within the city of Rockville borders. There's absolutely no evidence that the APFO has caused that to happen any faster. In fact, the only evidence that we have is that Richard Montgomery Elementary School number 5 was delayed by a year because the school board thought we had our growth under control and they could just delay it. So our APFO has been a hindrance on that.
Thank you. Next, it'll be Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
So Mr. Moore is right. The city does not control funding for schools. This is the problem with school overcrowding that is facing so many of our elementary and middle schools in the city is something that can only be solved by the county and by the county school system. When the city enacted its APFO about 8 years ago, and the Planning Commission reviewed the law, actually at the time, unanimously, all the members of the Planning Commission disagreed with the premise of having the school standard in the law for exactly that reason, because the city does not control it. When I served on the APFO review committee, this question actually was a little bit outside of the scope of what we were tasked to look at, but there are some key differences between how the city and the county implement their APFO, and in terms of the protections that provides. I think it's something we need to continue to take a harder look at.
Thank you. Next, let's move to Ms. Whitaker.
Well, the Montgomery County Public Schools have a more relaxed standard for school capacity. I think that Rockville and the Planning Commission were smart to say that 110% is all we would want to do in terms of putting more students in classes. Where we are right now is that we have trailers in the backyards of many of the schools, and that's totally unacceptable. But I don't think we should go to the Montgomery County standard, which would perhaps even create a situation that would put additional trailers in the schools. No, I think the city has to take control of it by using the APFO to protect the children and the quality of life. I mean, we are setting a stage for children to have substandard educations, and I think that's unacceptable.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley.
The APFO addresses the measure of development that we have in the city. It's not an attempt to control the schools. It's similar to overeating in that if we were to continue to build intense development and add that school population to our already expanding population, then our schools would be even more crowded. Today, our schools exceed the Montgomery County standard, so our own standard isn't even in the way to that extent. I favor keeping the APFO as a broad policy statement, as do 14 other counties and 26 other municipalities in the state, and working out our short-term differences. But I would not in any way change the fundamental element or design of it. It's exactly what the state of Maryland wants us to do.
Thank you. Ms. Feinberg.
Thank you. I have a different viewpoint. I think the APFO is something that we need to look at, and we need to see if we need to make it be more aligned in some relationship with the county. Funding for schools is partially by the state funding for the capital improvements program as well as MCPS and with local dollars from the county. It is not something that the city gives any funding to. The APFO is not going to prevent overcrowding in our schools, nor will it prevent portables for being put on school campuses. That is a decision. MCPS is in control of boundaries. The city is not for any individual schools and for clusters. They can put portables on any school as they choose. So I think we do need to understand we can advocate and work with the city. The city can advocate and work with the county, work with MCPS, but I do not believe that it is really our realm within to establish what these schools would be. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Onley.
Well, I believe we need an APFO as a guide tool. Now, we've already figured out that it didn't work because it delayed Richard Montgomery School number 5 for a year. But at this point, what are we going to do about it? With school overcrowding, I think it is the utmost importance that we work with Montgomery County Public Schools to make sure that our children get their fair share. We do need an APFO to help us with traffic, water, and sewer. But we also need to continue to fight for what's right for our children and right for their future. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to try something a little bit different, and I'm not sure how well this will work, but I'm going to ask a question that, and I'll ask it to 3 of you, and then I'll call on the next 3 that were not called on. And what we sort of envisioned, but I'm not sure it'll work, but we'll see, is that you would respond, the 3 following candidates would respond to the answers that the first 3 gave. And then we'll go back and we'll do it, the 3 that responded will get to go first. So we'll give this a try. If you want to just answer the question, feel free to do that. You don't need to respond, though we thought it might be interesting to see a little bit of a difference rather than just talking about what you think. So we're going to start out, and we're going to start with you. I'll let the 3 know that are going to start out. So it's Ms. Onley, Mr. Moore, and Mr. Hadley are going to be the ones who start out with this first question. So how do you hope to address the needs of younger people? How do you move Rockville in a direction that takes into account the needs of this group?
Oh my goodness. That's a good question. On my campaign team, I have a lot of young people. So I believe in engaging the younger generation because they're our future. And I think it's very important that we just continue to reach out to them with their busy schedules. Some of them have young families, but I don't think we should give up because eventually we're going to be too old to handle things and we're going to need them to take over. So the more information and outreach we do to bring them on board, the better.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
My campaign team also has a lot of younger people on it, and they are my children, 6 of them. And they are tired of that at this point. So I do have a good feel for what younger families do need out of this city. The city needs to just keep in mind just what makes it easier for a family to prosper in a city. Is it like with Rockville University, which is a way that citizens can kind of come in and learn all about the way the city operates. One thing that I asked to have added this term, and we did have added, was childcare for that. So if you're a family that has young kids, you can actually go in and learn about your city and have your kids taken care of at the same time. Our recreation programs are very important to the younger folks in the city. The way that we maintain our parks is very important. And things like, can the city expand its child care offerings? Things like that are the kind of things that will allow younger families to stay and prosper in Rockville.
Okay. Mr. Hadley.
Well, the definition of young people is probably the sleeper in the question, whether we're talking single Generation X people or whether we're talking young families. I think Rockville has a great abundance of attraction, as we see in our particular street and neighborhood, for young families moving in with their children, enjoying all the facilities and the schools and the fun and the swim center and hometown holidays and everything else we have, and Town Square. For Generation X, I'm not sure, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure we're ready for them or they're ready for us. We're primarily a family-oriented neighborhood community, and I'm not sure we're ready to make downtown a total singles bar, swinging whatever place till 2:30 or 3 in the morning. I may be wrong about that, but I think that we probably want to query our citizens very well before we take that leap. Thank you.
So we're going to move to the next 3 candidates, and feel free, you can just answer the question about Rockville and younger people, or you can respond to what your fellow candidates said. So Ms. Feinberg, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. I was in the Post this weekend. There was an article about millennials staying in D.C. and not moving out to the suburbs, that it's a different generation than many of us sitting here. As well as concurrently, there was the Nighttime Economy Task Force, which was just released, which was involving all stakeholders. One of the things it said we need to have are more music venues, smaller ones, not like the Fillmore type thing. I'm saying smaller, like jazz clubs, supper clubs, to keep the young millennials staying here, not going downtown, not going to Boston for nighttime activities. There might have to be a multi-pronged approach. We may need to change some of our liquor laws. That would involve changing some things with the state. We also have to make it a place that when those families go out and raise families, they'll later on be places for them, like in Town Center, for gathering places. But yes, there are things we need to do. We need to make it a vibrant city for millennials.
Thank you. So our second, Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Well, I think there were some interesting ideas raised here. I'll try to respond, I guess, to each of them. As Mr. Hadley pointed out, really the question is about the definition of who we're talking about here. If you're talking about youth, clearly needs are very different in terms of rec programs and parks, as Tom pointed out, versus people who are fresh out of college, might be interested in nightlife, versus young families who could need childcare. I think that one of the keys here is going to be actually doing more to engage people of more diverse ages, both in terms of elections. It's great that Virginia has some people on her campaign team that are helping out, because really when you look at who's voting in the city, they aren't the people in my age bracket or even Tom's age bracket or even some of the other people's age bracket. So we're clearly not hearing from all of our all of our community here. I think one idea that could could be advantageous is to have designated seats on boards and commissions that are for younger members or for student members. On the Environment Commission, we have one seat that's has been filled by a senior in high school, an undergraduate, and a graduate student over different periods of time. So it's another way to reach different people.
Thank you so much. And finally, Ms. Whitaker.
Well, I'm going to bite the bullet and say it's the young professionals that we're talking about. I think we have a lot of events that attract young professionals. The hometown holidays, the car show that was just occurred. We have all these rec programs. I like Ms. Feinberg's idea about having music venues. Maybe we could have a Berkshire in Town Center too. I think that what young people do is they move into the community, and then as seniors move into Town Center too, because of course we're going to have a senior community there. Some people don't think that's a great idea, but I think it's a great idea. They go into Town Center too, they open up some houses, and then the young people can move into those houses. Also, I think that Town Center too can provide, lots of a fire pit where young people can hang around,
Thank you. So we'll see. We're going to try to do this again because we've got a different group that gets to go first that you respond to. So let me read the question first, and this will be Ms. Whitaker, Ms. Polakovich-Carr, and Ms. Feinberg going on this question first. And it's the opposite of what we just asked. So how should Rockville address the needs of the aging population? Are specific measures needed to assist them to remain in their homes and to access services? So with that, let's start with Ms. Whitaker.
Well, I think that having the aging population around Town Center is not a bad idea. We have Sunrise. We have a long history of having assisted living and older people in the community, and we're going to have, I think it's called Breakview or Brightview, the new Town Center 2 community, which will have a couple of hundred seniors in it. I think having seniors close to the town center and the metro is a great idea because you know what? They're the only ones that have money right now. We're all struggling other than the seniors. So I think it's a great idea to have the community close in, and I'm for it. I'm 100% for it, and it avoids the problem of the APFO overcrowding of schools because seniors don't have children.
Okay. It's Ms. Polakovich-Carr next.
Thank you. So seniors are actually the fastest growing part of our demographic in our city, and that pace of increase is projected to increase in the coming years. So this is clearly going to be an important and growing problem for our community in terms of making sure that all of their needs are being met. I actually spoke to a retired woman who lives in Montrose a few weeks ago who was saying that the city offered great programs, but it was difficult for her to get up to the senior center, and she'd like to see something that was within walking distance, and particularly being in the southern part of the city, she felt at times her neighborhood was underserved. I think it might be time to ask the Senior Commission to take a look at this question. I know a few years ago they did an evaluation and a report that was mostly focused on the senior center and what was working there, what improvements could be made, but perhaps it's time to take a broader look across the city in terms of the types of programs that we're offering for seniors and to do a thorough review of that.
Thank you. So next, it's Ms. Feinberg.
Thank you very much. As I have walked neighborhoods, I too have encountered many people who are what I would call the frail elderly, the 80, 85, 90, 95-year-olds who want to stay in their homes. And what I have heard is time and time again they say, if I see a railing that's unsteady or I see stairs that are unbalanced, they'll say, I don't know where to get the help. It's not that we don't have the help between services in the county and in the city through groups of nonprofits such as Community Ministries of Rockville, other nonprofits. The issue is we need more of liaison activity. There are many fine programs, but I think we need additional outreach, not staying just in the senior center, but our outreach workers need to go where folks are. go to these civic associations, go to the homeowners association meetings, go to the churches in town, and go out to the membership. The studies looking on the needs have been done many, many years ago for seniors. We may need to convene a Rockville City Senior Summit.
Thank you. So now let's go and see if people want to respond, but you can just answer the question or respond to what your fellow candidates said. So, Mr. Hadley, you're up first.
Well, as the only septuagenarian in the group, I'll say that I may be more aware of senior services than some of you are. The population of Rockville that's over 45 years of age, I'm not implying that 45 is senior, is 40%. And the portion of our population that's 65 or over is about 26 or 27%, and those numbers are growing. I'm not sure people are aware of how much we have in the way of senior services now. For instance, we have busing to the senior center, we have taxi coupons. Maggie, my wife, and I had the privilege of serving as dear friends for an elderly neighbor who passed away a couple of years ago, but we were with him for about 5 years. His family is out of town. It was a rare and distinct pleasure. It was much better than Tuesdays with Maury. Much better. A rich, rich experience. And one thing I would say is that there could be a lot more volunteerism where families look to people in their communities.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
The City of Rockville has terrific senior services, but we can do more, and with the population growing at the rate that it's growing, we're going to have to do more. I have a long background with the city's senior services. My great-aunt Lil scheduled the buses to the senior center for 30 years until she retired 2 years ago at age 90. So I've actually dealt with Rockville senior services ever since I was a kid. But not everything can be done by the city. The senior center is fantastic. The services are great there. But a lot of it's going to have to be neighbor on helping neighbor, too. And the city can help with that to a certain extent. We have a program that matches up strong backs with seniors who need their snow shoveled during big storms. That's the kind of thing that the city can do to keep people in their houses longer.
Thank you. And finally, it's Ms. Onley.
Thank you. Well, being a member of the Senior Center and being a baby boomer, it's really important that we look for housing, transportation, and programs that stimulate seniors. Right now, we seem to be on a steady course, but as people like myself start to age, and we need to look at housing, transportation, we're going to have to really put more resources into what our seniors need and what will fit their lifestyle. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's great. Thank you. I'm not sure it worked the way we envisioned it, but hey, we got answers to the questions, so that's all we were really needed. So let me ask you, I think this might be the final question. So why don't we see if we can do this in 45 seconds, if our timer can change it to 45 seconds. What lessons can the city learn from the economic downturn of the recent past that can help with future uncertainties? And we're going to start with Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Well, I think there's a few key issues that we should be taking away from the recent economic downturn. One is that the city can't always count on revenues going up from year to year. Even when the property tax rate stays the same, revenue into the city has increased because of increasing property values, and that clearly wasn't the case. So we need to make sure that we are running a tight ship and making sure that we are running programs in the most efficient and effective way possible. I was very encouraged that the city manager this past year in her first budget actually found a number of vacant city employee positions to eliminate because she thought that they were no longer needed in the future. I think it's those kind of hard decisions that we need to continue to make going forward.
Thank you. Ms. Whitaker?
I think that the economic downturn has spotlighted the fact that we need to stop borrowing and spending. I mean, we already have a debt of $142 million. We carry a debt servicing charge of almost $6 million a year. We don't get any benefit from that at all. So I think we need to have fiscal restraints on our budget. I think we should be doing things that are essential for the city, and we should slow down. So I think this has been a great opportunity to say, we got to start looking at the budget a little bit more carefully and not borrow and spend.
Okay. Mr. Moore, you're next.
Something that Councilmember Pershela has emphasized often is that Rockville has done very well by the federal sector for decades, but that is something that we cannot continue to rely on. The federal sector is shrinking, and the downturn accelerated that trend. That's something that we have been dealing with on the mayor and council for some time now, and it's just going to get worse. One of the things that we most immediately had to deal with when the downturn was that our pension fund took a huge hit. The value of the investments there went way down. We've had to dump hundreds of thousands of dollars into that to try to bring it back up to where it needs to be. On the question of whether we get no benefit from the debt service that this city holds, our police station, our senior center expansion, and I believe the building we're in right now, we're all funded with bonds. We get a great deal of value for our money for the moderate amount of money that this city borrows.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley?
Downturns recur. That wasn't the only one that we're going to see. And so the idea of going forward with fiscal responsibility is really necessary. Reviewing the investment strategies for our pension plan would be well advised to avoid another 39 or 40% dip that we had last time. And yes, we have to keep our debt very much in line with what our conservative revenue figures are going to be, and we have to increase our reserves.
Thank you. Ms. Feinberg.
Thank you very much. This is a question I wish I had a half hour for. Anyway, there are many things I think we have learned from it. I think we need to budget for every year, but we need to look at a multi-year plan to make sure that our budgets are sustainable in the future. I think we need to look at the program effectiveness and efficiency, as Ms. Carr said. I have been involved with results-based budgeting for probably 20 years in the county. I think we also need to make sure that we maintain our AAA bond rating. I think we need to maintain our advocacy with our state delegation to get every nickel we can from the state on both the CIP and also on the operating budget. I think we've learned for that. We need to advocate better. I think I am able to cut dollars in hard times. I've been able to do it, and I know that I could do it on the council. Thank you.
Ms. Onley.
Well, I think it's very important that we take a look at our choices when we make with our budget. One of the things that has come up is attrition through, our staff. And I believe if we are pushed to do that, it would be nice to phase people out. If helping the budget, if someone retiring will help our budget, then we need to tell them, okay, 6 months from now, a year from now, 18 months from now. That will help us in that respect. We also need to make sure that we have smart growth and we're making smart decisions on our spending in the city.
Thank you so much. So this is going to be the final question. It's a three-parter, and I'm just going to go in alphabetical order because it's about the ballot questions. I know you all know that there are ballot questions on this ballot, which have to do with the term of office for council and mayor going from 2 years to 4 years, moving the election to a 4-year cycle that coincides with the presidential election, and finally increasing the number of council members to 6 council members. So what I'm going to do is just call each of you in alphabetical order and ask you for each question whether you agree or don't agree or are neutral. No, the timing is going to just be going right through. So, Ms. Feinberg, 2 years to 4 years?
Yes.
Mr. Hadley?
2 years to 4 years, but not to coincide with the presidential elections.
Okay, you did two. All right, Mr. Moore.
2 years to 4 years, but only if we go to the presidential elections.
Ms. Onley?
2 years to 4 years, yes.
Okay.
I'm still evaluating this one. I think it depends on some other logistical issues.
Okay. And Ms. Whitaker?
I will support the results of the voter referendum.
Okay. So now you, Ms. Feinberg gets to say this is a presidential election.
Right. I do not agree with making it coterminous with the national election.
And I think we had a yes and a no and a yes. Ms. Onley?
I think it would help get voters out. However, if the citizens of Rockville think that it won't work on the presidential year,
Yes
I
or
still...
no?
Oh,
Okay.
oops, sorry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. Polakovich-Carr.
Thank you. I'm still evaluating this one as well. I think it's tied to the previous question.
All right. And are you the same, Ms. Whitaker?
And I'll support whatever the referendum
Okay.
shows.
So this is up to 6 council members. Real fast, just say
Yes,
yes.
or no, right. 4 to 6 council members, yes.
Yes.
Not particularly.
Ms. Onley?
Listen, not particularly.
No.
Listen, not particularly. No.
What do you, Ms. Onley, I don't think we heard.
I said yes.
Okay, yes?
No.
Yes, but I will support what the referendum
Okay,
shows.
thank you. So thank you all for that. Let's, now we're going to move to our final statements. And we drew, as you remember, we drew at the beginning for placement. So Ms. Polakovich-Carr, you were first with your 1 minute final statement.
Thank you. I've spoken to residents from all across Rockville while knocking on nearly 5,000 doors. Residents enjoy many things about our city, but I've heard concerns about traffic, school overcrowding, and pedestrian safety. These won't be simple problems to solve, but I've demonstrated through my past leadership experiences that I will pursue a fact-based policy discussion that is inclusive of all sides. When I chaired the APFO Review Committee, I was charged with leading a process about a contentious subject with a group of people who were ideologically divided. Early on, I realized that every committee member, as well as key stakeholders, needed to feel engaged in the process. Otherwise, the group would fracture and we would not complete our task. In spite of plenty of passionate debate, we unanimously agreed on many recommendations and produced a final report that represented the consensus of the group. I'm very proud of my work on the APFO Review Committee, and I will strive to govern the city similarly. I hope that I can count on your vote on November 5th.
Thank you. Mr. Hadley, you're next.
I offer these closing points of view. I think that a Crystal City type of intensive development would be overdevelopment for Rockville. I don't think mass transit will be the answer to our present traffic congestion or for the near future. I think broad waivers of the adequate public facility ordinance will decimate our overcrowded schools. I think our AAA bond rating does not mean the city is in sound financial shape. We should not borrow just because we think we can. Intensive development will not solve our fiscal challenges. And if Town Center 1 was a totally sound deal financially, I don't think we'd now be claiming the need to develop Town Center 2 in order to pay for it. And lastly, I would say that electing a like-minded slate creates, I think, a them versus us atmosphere, and it will fail to achieve fair representation for everyone in our city. As an independently elected council member, I will work with all concerned to bring the scale of development, city services, our financial planning in line with sustaining our great family-oriented neighborhoods and dynamic business community.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Onley.
With my 35 years with IBM and my 20 years serving boards and commissions and task force here in the city, and my directorship on the Americana Homeowners Board, it speaks for itself. I've been a good steward of public and incorporated funds, making sure that all I's were dotted and T's were crossed. And I promise you that I will do the same when elected to the Rockville City Council. I've been loyal to the missions of the city, even when people were not very kind or were crazy, raging lunatics towards me. I stuck with the mission and made sure that we got the job done. I promise you that I will make smart choices in my decisions concerning Town Center 2 and the Rockville Pike Plan. For more information about me, go to my website, votevirginiaonly.org, and please vote for me on November 5th. Thank you for listening this evening.
Thank you. Ms. Feinberg, you're next.
Thank you. I hope this evening's forum enabled you to open a window on my background in policy formation and budget. As a results-oriented leader with more than 14 years in the county's Office of Management and Budget and the current Deputy Director of the Department of General Services, I work continuously in a fact-based manner, and I listen to all stakeholders, and I seek to find common ground to problems. I will advocate tirelessly for Rockville. I was appointed to the Rockville Finance and Budget Task Force and the Rockville Summit and served 7 years on the city's Board of Supervisors of Elections. I am also currently the board chair of Montgomery Hospice and a Leadership Montgomery graduate. As a member of Team Rockville, I promise to be transparent and civil in my interactions with all elected officials and demonstrate respect for staff.
Thank you so much. Ms. Whitaker.
I think that this is a defining moment for the city of Rockville. We have 4 neighborhoods that border the metro stations. They are King Farm, East Rockville, Twinbrook, and to some extent West End. They need the protection of the APFO now so that the development proceeds without a negative impact on their lives and their children's lives. You can count on me to protect those neighborhoods at City Hall. You can count on me to vote against the borrow and spend attitude the city presently has. I believe the residents of Rockville who live here now come first, not residents that will move in. I will insist that those residents are informed, have a say in the issues concerning their neighborhoods, and that their views are heard.
Thank you, Ms. Whitaker. Mr. Moore, you're our last speaker.
Thank you. We didn't get much time to talk about it, but absolutely one of the most important things the next mayor and council is going to tackle is these charter review amendments. I believe that shifting our elections from the odd years to the even years would dramatically boost our voter turnout in a way that nothing else has been able to do it. I strongly urge everybody to support that ballot question. Some real change is coming to Rockville, and it's not just around the metro stations and in town center. One way or another, at least 3 of the members of the mayor and council are going to be brand new to the body next year. A governing majority. This makes your attention to these races particularly important this time. I have the judgment and the experience to continue to lead on the charter questions, on the Pike Plan, on our upcoming budgets, and whatever else comes our way. I ask you for your continued support and your vote on November 5th. I also ask you to support my fellow Team Rockville members, Mark Pershela for mayor, and Beryl Feinberg, Virginia Alney, and Julie Polakovich-Carr for council. We don't agree on everything, hardly anything, it seems sometimes, but we bring a common sense and fact-based approach to the city that I think will serve it very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank all the candidates for coming out tonight and speaking and doing this debate. It's incredibly valuable that you do this. Your willingness to put yourself forward to the voters is quite commendable, and I always think it's a very brave thing to be willing to put yourself up for a vote. So I commend all of you for doing that. I want to thank everyone that's here in the audience and also in the viewing public who's watching this. I think this is an incredibly important election, as has been said. November 5th, I hope you all come out and vote and really bring up those voting totals. So whatever happens in the future, you will know that you will have made your vote count. Thank you so much. I'm Linda Barnes, President of the League of Women Voters.
Here's a look at the candidates running for City Council this year. Councilmembers Bridget Newton and Mark Pershela are running for mayor. 6 candidates are running for 4 council seats, and they are Beryl L. Feinberg, Donald H. Don Hadley, Tom Moore, Virginia Onley, Julie Polakovich-Carr, Claire Marcuccio Whitaker. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For polling locations, special transportation options, and other election information, go online to rockvillemd.gov/election13. Keep it on Rockville 11 for the most news on the city election, including candidate statements, debates, and results.
Except they have the Good evening. Welcome to the third debate that the City of Rockville is sponsoring. I'm Lynna Barnes, President of the League of Women Voters, and I'm here tonight to moderate a debate between the mayoral candidates for the City of Rockville. We are going to have this debate tonight. I hope you will also be looking for the debate that was held previously with the county council members, but at this time we're going to be doing a debate with the mayoral candidates. I want to tell you a little bit about the League. I'm sure all of you know that the League participates in debates throughout the country. They do the United States debates, but we also do debates within municipalities, just like Rockville. And so we're very pleased to be here tonight to do this. The League is a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that seeks to increase civic participation and voter awareness on all issues. And coming to events like this, which are debates for candidates, is one way in which citizens really can inform themselves, and also watching it on television. I want to thank the City of Rockville for sponsoring this debate, and also thank Channel 11, the Rockville Municipal Station, for carrying this and filming this debate for us. I also want to thank all the League volunteers who are here tonight, and of course the candidates themselves who are willing to come and run for these elections and participate in the debates. And finally, I thank all of you who are here in the audience tonight, and also those of you who are viewing this. You are enhancing your knowledge about civic participation, and I commend you for that. I hope you will be watching this debate with your mind thinking about the fact that on November 5th you will be able to go out and vote. And it's very important, and I hope you will all participate in this local election. So with that said, I want to hope that turn to how the debate's going to be carried on. We are going to have two candidates tonight, Ms. Newton and Mr. Pershala, and we will be asking them questions which they will answer with about a 1 minute, with a 1 minute time limitation. They will also do 1 minute closings and 1 minute openings. The order in which this is occurring is because of they drew their order previously to this debate. If anyone in the audience has any questions, they should feel free to bring them up. I have several questions from the audience from the previous time, the previous debate with the candidates that I will be using again. So with that, I also urge the candidates to be aware that the timer is sitting in the front row, and she will have cards that will say 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. And I will try to enforce those rules. So, with that said, let's open with Ms. Newton.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for your continuous advocacy for fair and nonpartisan elections. Thank you to Ms. Barnes for moderating. I would like to be the next mayor of Rockville because I believe that my vision, Together We Can Do Great Things, encompasses the direction the people of Rockville, the residents, business owners, employees, shoppers, students, are hoping to see from their leader. Last week, we learned that Livability.com named Rockville the 10th most livable city in America. They cited our amenities and encouraged an engaged community, something I have worked arduously to encourage. They specifically noted Red Gate Golf Course. You need to know that I'm the only one running who advocated for the course and its employees. I'm the only one running who challenged those who wanted to turn 40 acres of green space into more development and traffic. And despite statements to the contrary, I'm very happy that we finally got this lease agreement, which I supported and kept the community treasure in Rockville. I hope that after tonight's debate, you will agree that we have a great city, and I have the vision and leadership to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pershala.
Thank you. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters, Lynna Barnes for moderating, and all of you for coming. I would like to also thank the voters for 4 years on the council. When you decide who to vote for mayor, look at our records and look where we want to lead the city. Whether it's the new police station, our senior center expansion, our new motor vehicle maintenance facility, the Choice Hotels international attraction to our town center, how Red Gate was handled, our affordable housing at Fireside Park Apartments, or how we did on the conduit bonds for the National Lutheran Home and other big issues, I made the right vote. I had the right approach. My opponent did not. I like our programs and services. I want the budget to be sustainable. I am the budget guy. I want to diversify our economy to deal with the shrinking federal sector. I want better ways to deal with the growth. We need a corrected APFO, and we need to try other things to control growth, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you. So let's start with our first question, and I'm going to alternate the order in which I ask the question, but I will start with Mr. Prashela. So the question is, what two Rockville issues are the most important ones for you, and how would you address them?
Yes, I certainly think the economy, our regional economy, is undergoing wrenching change. We will have a shrinking federal sector. It's not only the direct federal sector, it's the contracting sector that depends on that. This will slowly shrink if we're lucky, and we need to diversify our economy to diversify our tax base in order to maintain our excellent services. I would also like to speak about growth. The APFO is one tool. It needs to be corrected to some extent. It certainly needs to have better alignment with the county APFO, especially for schools. But that's not the only thing we need to look at. We need to look at other measures of controlling growth, and we haven't tried things in the master plan yet. We have a whole part of our master plan called the growth element. That ought to be a policy document, not a descriptive document. And our zoning ordinance really needs to be looked at, because our zoning ordinance that just came on in 2009 really allowed growth in ways people don't appreciate.
Thank you. Ms. Newton.
Thank you. I think there are so many issues that it's hard to pick just two to be the most important, but I think there's some overarching umbrella items that we could talk about. One is protecting the quality of life, the reason that we live here and the reason that people want to live here. That's because we have great neighborhoods, we have great city services, we have great schools, but you need to have procedures in place to maintain that quality of life, and one of those things is our APFO. It isn't the only tool, but it's the only tool we have right now. I hope that next week we will vote to strengthen that and be able to protect us going forward so that we will get new schools and work better with MCPS on that. The other would be keeping Rockville affordable. And there are many things we can do in that realm, but I think having a balanced budget every year, and I very much voted against any increases in taxes all 4 years that I was on the council. I think we need to look at ways to increase our services to those who need help by working with the Rockville Senior Center and the, excuse me, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll continue with you, and my question is, what lessons can the city learn from the economic downturn of the recent past that can help with the future uncertainties?
Well, I think the biggest lesson is that we need to prepare for the future, and you can't go spending everything in your treasure chest. Rockville has a 15% reserve right now, and there's talk of maybe increasing it to 18%. And I think as we make good decisions going forward, that will happen. We already are at almost 18% this year because of some extra money that came in towards the end of the fiscal year. I think spreading out some of our CIP choices and making good decisions on what we need to do and what we can get help with is a good idea. For instance, one of the items that's $11.5 million is the extension of Maryland Avenue. We need to have our developers help us with that, and that will come through community, it'll come through the county taxes for that. So I think there are ways that we can work with the county better to encourage good decisions for Rockville's budget.
Mr. Prashela?
Prashela, yes.
Prashela. It's a long night.
Just don't look at it spelling and you're okay. Okay, so this has been one of my big things ever since I started knocking on doors in April. We really need to diversify our economy. We need to diversify our tax base. You know, we can bring in more good jobs, just like we brought in Choice Hotels International, BAE Systems came to Rockville, Mesoscale International came to Rockville. These are all private companies that offer great jobs that can replace some of these federal jobs. So it's not that I'm worried about many federal workers losing their job by layoffs. I think there's just going to be this attrition that we have to make up for. I would say we increase our reserve, we increase our reserve, we increase our reserve, because if there is another downturn, we we really need to be able to handle that without increasing tax rates. And finally, we need to get a much better handle on our retirement fund. I am on the retirement board. We've done great work to diversify our investments and to bring it back up to snuff, but that's not a done deal yet. It's going to take several more years of work.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue with that a bit. With very specifically, what can be done to make Rockville economies less dependent on the federal government?
I think I just answered that. I mean, it's really a whole lot of, you have the government, you have the private sector, and those are the two main parts of any economy. But certainly we can make it easier for private companies to come into Rockville. The whole review process for building new buildings, the whole permitting process, inspection process can be vastly streamlined. I think we need to work with the county government, especially on education funding and transit funding, because so much of our economy is really being strangled at the moment, especially on the transit stuff. The school funding actually is a lot easier problem than the transit funding, believe it or not. I think that's about it.
Okay. What about making the federal government dependency?
Well, I think the reason that we're dependent on the government is because many of our citizens work for the federal government. It's not that the city gets money from the federal government, but I think I do agree with Mark. We can do a better job of bringing businesses to Rockville and encouraging development here in that realm. And I think that as the employment sector changes a little bit, that will help stabilize some of our housing base for taxes. But I'm not sure that Rockville, I mean, we are next to Washington, D.C., and as long as we are that close, people will want to live in Rockville because it's a great place to live, and we need to just look for other ways to diversify.
Okay. Well, this is still with budget decisions, but it goes a bit to a specific budget issue. That budget decisions have reduced the funds available for maintenance in the city. Do you view this to be a problem? If so, how would you deal with it? If not, why not?
Well, the budgeting of the city, I think, has been done very well. I'm not sure that we have reduced the funds for infrastructure repairs. I think we just need to reevaluate where things are going. I think I'm a little perplexed by the question. I think that Rockville does a great job with figuring out our CIP programs. We deleted half of them because we had no funding in the beginning to put there. So I think we need to concentrate on what needs to be done to protect the quality of life for our citizens, to ensure that we are providing adequate infrastructure as we can, and continue to budget in a very moderate and conservative fashion.
I agree with Councilmember Newton. The city is extremely well budgeted and has had strong finances throughout the last several decades. But I will say that we have cut back on street maintenance a little bit. Our repaving cycle used to be, I think, 11 years, and now it's down a little bit. And our tree trimming has suffered mightily. Actually, we need to pick up on that big time. And then there's a King Farm farmstead, which is a valuable historic resource. Would cost $17 million to fully refurbish, and we don't have any money at all for that, and that's why I suggested a King Farm Farmstead task force. This won't be the first one. It'll be the first one in 10 years, but we really need to look at private-public partnerships and other state funding, county funding, to get that farmstead under control, because it's a deteriorating historic resource. Thank you.
So you spoke a little bit about the county and the city. How do you think Rockville should handle the tensions between the county and the city governments? I'll start out with a question about the funds, because there are county funds services and duplicative services and how the funding goes. So speak a little bit about that issue, and then I'll ask a couple of other questions about the county and city relationships.
Right. Well, there are several aspects to the county and city relationships, and a lot depends not only on the mayor but the individual council members making personal relationships with the county executive and the county council members, as well as members of the Board of Education, as well as member of Montgomery College. The tax duplication, I've worked on it, Councilmember Newton's worked on it in different ways, but I think we are lobbying with other municipalities and our own personal ways to have the county, live up to what we think our fair share of the tax duplication ought to be. But we have to keep in mind that the county's really looking to cut the tax duplication. They're not looking to increase it, and it may just come down to a lot of municipalities having one great big snit fit in front of the county council to keep that tax duplication, because on a policy statement, the county council doesn't want to increase it.
So the county-city relationship, let's start with finances.
Well, I think, I think the relationship is getting better between the county and the city, and between other jurisdictions as well. I know the Mayor Marcuccio and I worked very hard in the last 2 terms to build those relationships and get them back on track. In terms of money back, I should have mentioned that we got over $2 million in the last 4 years in the restoration of highway user revenue monies, because of advocacy on the part of Maryland Municipal League, who goes to bat for municipalities at the state level and challenges the state to give us our fair share. We're not getting it yet, but we'll keep working on it. Tax duplication is going to be a big issue going forward. There has been a 5-year work study going with that between people on it. In fact, our city manager is one of the people representing municipalities on that, and I look forward to a good discussion. I think Montgomery County understands that they owe municipalities the money that municipalities spend providing the services within their own borders, and we need to have that money repaid to us.
Okay. Thank you. Why don't we go to traffic, the same issue with the county and the city and traffic issues. Clearly, you have Rockville Pike going down the center of the city, or anyway, main artery. Talk about that and how the county and city relationships are.
Well, once again, I think you have to understand Rockville's not an island, and we have to deal with jurisdictions that completely surround us, including the county and Gaithersburg. I have been an advocate for a trolley-like system on Rockville Pike because I think it's going to be years before the state has the money to fund the BRT. It's millions of dollars, and I think we're a long way off from that. So I'd like to have something in place before. A trolley could be green, it would be fun, it's a little more sexy, and it could stop far more often. I think our young people, our seniors, and our people with disabilities would be much more likely to use a trolley system. I'm not talking about the overhead wires, I'm talking about a bus system that looks like a trolley. And I think that could be put in place very quickly, could be run between Gaithersburg and Rockville and Down County, and I think that would be a big benefit for us.
Certainly, the Rockville Pike plan has some very attractive aspects to it with respect to transit, including the rapid bus transit up and down the middle, the maintenance of 3 through lanes on either side of it, the establishment of 2 full access lanes up and down. I think that's really a great vision, also very expensive and long-winded. Putting the development that does occur near transit stations, the metros, for example, is a good idea, but also having mixed use so that people can satisfy their basic needs by walking or by biking, not by getting in a car. I think we have a number of developments outside our borders, for example, the White Flint plan. But the one thing we did get the county to do, they didn't used to look at our traffic impacts when they were developing outside the county. Now they are looking at our traffic impacts when they do their intersection studies, for example.
So continuing with that, you've got, if you have the bus rapid transit on the Pike, they're going to be stations either on the curbs are in the center. Would you speak to that issue, please?
Yes, I think Rockville's going to do what the county's going to do, and right now that seems to be up and down the center of it. I want to say that one thing about bus rapid transit, it's really meant to move people quickly across long distances. So it's not that the rapid transit has to have a lot of stops in Rockville. What we really want it to do is to take cars off the road that come from Frederick going to Bethesda. That's what we really want to do, freeing up the space that we do have for the local traffic. And also those 2 access lanes, full access lanes on either side of the Rockville Pike really gets a lot of the local traffic going from shopping center to shopping center off of the main through routes. And finally, those bus pullovers, where the bus doesn't stop in that right lane but can pull over and load and unload and then pull back in. I think that all that helps with the throughput.
Ms. Newton?
Well, I'm glad to see that Rockville is finally considering doing what the county does should we actually go to a BRT. We have to be in sync with the county on this. But my concerns about a BRT are manyfold. One is how wide Rockville Pike will be. It will be literally impossible to cross on foot. And God forbid you have children or shopping bags or you're elderly or handicapped, that will be impossible. I also worry about property rights. If we take that much space in the middle of the pike, what about the property rights of the developers or the property owners right along the pike? The other thing is, if we're building a BRT for speed and just moving people down, what about the metro? We're just building another metro. We need something that gets people off the pike who are using the pike, not just people who are going through. And by building a big road like that, you're not going to help the people who are coming to shop and whatnot. So I think we need to look at a solution that addresses all of the issues and not just something that speeds through Rockville. They don't add to our bottom line in terms of economics either.
So this is continuing on the theme of something that's in the county. The Capitol Corridor Transitway will start at Shady Grove and then go up into Gaithersburg. What are your thoughts about how you work with the county on that? And then I'll have a follow-up question after that.
Well, once again, it's a matter of working with the county. Just for everybody's information, there's a meeting next Wednesday night, October 30th, on the CCT, so please go to the Rockville website, get the information, and get involved. I think it's important that Rockville be involved at this very important level to work with the county on what mitigations are going to be put in place. I wasn't for the CCT in the beginning, and I'm still not sure it's the best idea. We're going to pick up people in Clarksburg and bring them west and then east 45 minutes to get on the metro that's already crowded, standing room only, at Shady Grove. So I'm not sure that that's really solving a problem. But if the CCT comes, we've got to have a seat at the table. We've got to be there to mitigate for King Farm and our other communities and make sure that what comes is an enhancement to Rockville and King Farm and not a detriment.
Mr. Presea?
Yes, the Corridor Cities Transitway, I certainly support it. King Farm, its whole street grid was built around the idea of the Corridor Cities Transitway. It's not a retrofit, it's actually in the plans. People have told me now in 4 campaigns, get the traffic off the road. We need mass transit to do that. This is one of the major things. The whole idea that people are going to go from the end of the CCT to Shady Grove and get on a metro, a few people will do that. But any transit system, people get on and they get off along the way. There's an enormous number of jobs in the western part of King Farm, for example, really nice jobs, but these people don't live in Rockville. They live in Germantown. They live in Clarksburg, for example. They would be good candidates for the CCT just to get to King Farm and vice versa. And King Farm should be looking to get what it can out of the deal. A better crossing of 355, quiet buses, whatever it takes to reduce the mitigations, but King Farm can actually profit by this if they approach it correctly.
Thank you. So this is a follow-up on the CCT. It's obviously some amount of the funding is expected to come from the federal government, but of course there are also competing projects in the state for those federal funds. The Purple Line in the south part of the county, and then the Red Line in Baltimore. What would be your strategies to get the funding that's needed to put the CCT in place?
You're asking a question that's meant for a state legislator. But it certainly has helped that the state legislature has, number one, increased and is increasing the revenue source, which is the gas tax, but also putting a lockbox on it of sorts to protect it. And I can't tell you how badly we have all been hurt by the way the state legislature has handled the traffic money. And it's been diverted to balance the budget, and it's one big reason we're 20 years behind schedule on virtually everything. I think you've named 4 big projects. They all just have to get in line. Luckily for the CCT, it's in a design stage right now, so you're not talking about huge money at this point. But basically, the federal government's going to have to come in. If they're able to come in, the state government's just going to have to pony it up. We have no choice but to increase mass transit around the state because there just isn't any room for the cars.
Thank you. Ms. Nugent.
Well, I want to make a couple statements about mass transit. One of the things that I've been working on the Council of Governments Transportation Planning Board is a BOS, bus on shoulder, that would run down the middle of I-270 from Frederick down. There are other ways that we can get traffic moving and people out of their cars. We've got to talk about expanding our metro line as well, and more cars and longer cars is one thing, but what I've been told is that the system isn't built to carry longer cars right now, and that just won't work. So I think we have to find ways to work with our elected leaders, encourage them, support them, advocate with them to ensure that we get the money that we need here. And I will say again, a trolley is a lot less expensive than a BRT or the CCT even.
Thank you. So let's continue though with the county theme. What are your thoughts about the safety and how the county and the city interact with safety concerns, police department, fire stations, all of that?
Well, Rockville's very fortunate. We have a Rockville Volunteer Fire Department, and we have a fabulous police department. We have 59 sworn officers in the police department, and we answer 73. We are the first responders, to 73% of the calls for service within the city. We do a fabulous job. We do a great job of supporting the county as well, and thus making the county eligible to move on, use their resources elsewhere in Montgomery County where they're needed. So I think we have a great relationship. I think it's in large part due to our chief of police and the community policing that he's put in place. I think Rockville is a wonderfully safe community. Yes, we have issues every once in a while, but in general, I think we're really safe. And I think when we double our population during the day to 100,000 people, I think maybe we need to consider going a few more police officers to support that increase.
Thank you.
Yes, I think most people know that both the county and the city police operate within the city, and the city, as Councilmember Newton has mentioned, the city police respond to the vast majority of calls. One thing is in the tax duplication report, there is actually a possibility that the county will actually start contributing toward the city's police force because, after all, we do take some of the burden off the county. There are certain things our city police don't do. We don't do homicide investigations, for example, and I think that's very appropriate not to get into some of these things that we just wouldn't have the critical mass to get into. I would say that if we were to increase our own police department, for example, through a tax duplication increase, I would certainly have not put patrols out there, but really buck up our traffic division. We only have a few people in our traffic division, and I think there are some hot spots around the cities that could really benefit from having more people specifically addressed by traffic police officers.
Thank you. So let's move in a different direction. Mr. Persalia, does Rockville need more affordable housing? If yes, what approach do you suggest? And if not, why not?
Right. As the city council candidates did a very good job of addressing this issue, and particularly Virginia Onley and Tom Moore mentioned that we are hundreds, even thousands of units short for what we regard as affordable housing, and these are the teachers out of college, the police officers who are starting their careers, and others like that. We have opportunities on occasion, like Fireside Park Apartments. I'm happy to say that I voted to preserve that. We have the MPDU program, 12.5% or 15%, depending on the kind of project you have, are for moderately priced units. We don't have a whole lot of other opportunity except that we just need more housing. It's very difficult for younger people to live in their hometown. We educate them, we give them all sorts of advantages. They can't afford to live here, they go to Frederick, and that's not a good thing.
Ms. Newton.
Sure. I think what makes a great city is having a balance of all types of housing, and that's what we have to strive for in Rockville, is all types. I think we need to work on workforce housing in Rockville, and what I would advocate for and have talked about doing before is having a study done of all the housing in Rockville, all of the affordable housing and where it's located. A lot of our affordable housing is located in certain neighborhoods, and I think we need to have a cross-section. It needs to be widely spaced. It needs to not be concentrated. The best way to support everybody is to have all types of neighbors, have your schools full of all types of children. And I think that's what we can do a good job of doing, and work with Rockville Housing Enterprises to make that scan and figure out where we're lacking and what we can do to address those needs. I think you have to make sure that Rockville can continue to service all of the types of housing we have here and has the economic backing to support this, to support a wide diversity. And I think that's important for people to understand, that you can't just have a heavy on one end without understanding that it gets paid for somewhere else, and that's why we need a balance.
Thank you. Would you see zoning, using zoning to increase zoning density to increase affordable housing? Is that, the county uses that as a tool?
Well, Rockville currently requests 15% affordable housing in our town center area and 12.5% MPDUs, excuse me, in our the rest of our developments. And I think, as I said before about a balance, you've got to have a balance. I'm glad my opponent agrees that we need to review the zoning ordinance, because I think that that is in dire need of some quick review on certain issues, and we've got to make sure that we're protecting our neighborhoods and encouraging development, good development, that doesn't encroach and doesn't overwhelm. We have to have a balance. Okay.
Right. The revision of the zoning ordinance in 2009 took every commercial and every industrial tract of land, in addition to what we've already had in housing, and you can now have mixed-use zoning on all parts of the city. That means residential all over. In general, I support that, but I think we need to look at exactly where we allow this kind of housing be for the transit issues. I want to emphasize that our city staff has done a recent study on the location of affordable and subsidized housing, and it's not as concentrated as people have claimed it is. It is all over the city. Our master plan, for example, says scatter affordable housing. On the other hand, it says put it near metro stations and transit centers. So you have conflict even within our master plan about where it should go. But certainly, you know, the ability to have mixed use all over the city can help with housing. But remember that it's in conflict with the APFO to provide that housing.
Let's go to a question that we asked for the council members, the council candidates. How do you hope to address the needs of younger people, and how can you move Rockville in a direction that takes into account the needs of this group? And I would like you to speak specifically to families, and then also with children, and then also younger people of that treasured millennial generation.
Right. Actually, I think the county and the city currently do an excellent job supporting the families that can afford to live in this city, both through an excellent school system, incredible private education choices if that's what people choose to do, an incredible recreation and parks program, incredible parks all over the place, expanding bicycle opportunities, expanding pedestrian opportunities, all that, I think they're very well supported. As for the millennials, the best thing you can do for this group of people is to have enough housing that the housing prices aren't skyrocketing and they can actually afford to live here. We have great gathering places. For example, our town center is a great gathering place. But what do I see? I see people coming in on the metro, having a great time, and getting on the metro and leaving. And, you know, it's hard for a younger person to actually live in town center, for example.
Thank you. Ms. Newton?
I'm sorry Mark got that question first, because he took some of my answers. In 2009, when I ran against Walid Ovace, I learned a lot about the energy and excitement that our young people are bringing to Rockville, and I wanted to harness it, so I asked to create the Youth Commission, and we now have a very thriving Rockville Youth Commission. Now, that doesn't deal with young marrieds, but it does deal with our young people, and we can learn an awful lot from our young people. I think that our services, our activities, our location, those are things that encourage people to be here, to live here, but we also have to have great schools, and we do have great schools. We have to keep them great, and you keep them great by having great neighborhoods. So in terms of young families wanting to move, yes, it's got to be affordable, but schools will bring them, neighborhoods will bring them, parks and rec programs will help bring them and keep them here, and that's what we've got to work for. If we want Rockville to continue to be the city that we all moved into and live in, then we've got to think about what we like here and make sure we encourage that going forward.
Thank you. So let's turn this around and do what I asked the council candidates. How should Rockville address the needs of the aging population? Are there specific measures needed to assist them to remain in their homes and to access services? Yes, Ms.
Okay,
Newton, I'm
thank
sorry.
you. As a liaison to the Rockville Senior Commission, I've worked very hard to support the need of seniors in the city. We implemented another, or afforded another transportation driver for the bus. We added more hours to the caseworker. We've done a lot of things on our city budget-wise to support needs. We can do more. In 2011, I think we raised the homeowners tax credit and increased the savings that you could have and still qualify, and increase the home value and still be able to qualify. Those are things we can do to help our seniors age in place. I do agree with one of the comments that was made earlier about outreach, and I think we can use our neighborhood resources in a much more effective manner, not just to help our neighborhoods, but to help our senior community and get the word out and find out where we're lacking in services and address those. So I would make some changes to neighborhood resources to be more inclusive.
Mr. Persiela?
Yes. Certainly, we have done what we can within the limits of the state law in order to increase tax credits for seniors who are eligible, both income and asset-wise. We have great senior services, and I agree that the big problem is with seniors knowing that these services exist and how to access them. We have great private, nonprofit sector that helps community ministries of Rockville, for example. We help them as much as we can, and we are committed to further helping them. I do want to say that recently we had the opportunity to vote on funding for the senior center expansion, and I voted for that, and my opponent did not. But as a result of a 3-2 vote, we have a great exercise facility, more classroom space, and the senior center itself was refurbished in many ways, and that was money well spent. About half came from state and federal funds.
So, thank you. I'm going to go, this is in another direction. So this is another question I asked already. What do you see as the role of city commissions and boards? Do we need them all? How could they be made more effective? And Mr. Persiela?
Yes, we have a number of boards and commission, and I think on the order of 200 or 300 people in them, and I have looked at that list. I can't think of any that need to be eliminated. I have proposed in my platform the creation of a cultural outreach commission in order to more effectively engage all populations, not just on nationality, ethnic, and racial kinds of demographic variables, but there are other kinds of populations that we need to access. I'll give an example of the Traffic and Transportation Commission. You know, they review accident sites, they look at permit parking, they have a number of prescribed duties, but I think as an example, this is a commission that could really be doing much more. We have enormous amount of traffic data. We have evaluations of how our traffic mitigations for new developments. A number of things they could get into in new territory that would really challenge them, I think make their job much more fun and be much more useful to mayor and council.
Ms. Newton?
Yeah, I want to address the senior center expansion first. If people remember what was happening in this part of the country in 2009, 2010, we were going in a tailspin. I didn't think we should be taking on more debt. I was brand new to the council. I ran on a fiscal conservative platform, and I stuck to my guns on that. And I am thrilled that the senior center is here. It's going gangbusters. Would I have the same circumstances again? I'd have to vote that way again. We're in a different economy right now. Things are getting better. But I think you have to look at what was happening in our area back when we made that vote. As to boards and commissions, I fully support our boards and commissions. I think it's a great way for people to be involved in the city and to lend their shoulder to the wheel to help make us the great place we are. The Personnel Review Board, I would think we should get rid of it. It hasn't met in over 20 years. And I think we also should consider term limits because they would encourage more participation. More people would be able to get involved.
Thank you. So continuing on the theme of the commissions, the city has over 40% ethnic composition, yet the city boards and commissions do not reflect the composition at all. What would you specifically do to ensure that the representation on boards and commissions is more in line with the percentage of ethnic ethnic composition in Rockville?
Well, we've got to do more outreach, and I'll go back to my neighborhood resources program. I think that could be much stronger in a lot of different ways. I think the mayor and council need to take our meetings out into the community like we started doing in 2009 and 10. I think we can have walking town meetings. That gets a lot of people to come forward. I don't know if you remember those. Mayor Krasnow had them. They were wonderful. You'd go into a community, walk around, you met a lot of people, and people felt comfortable coming up and talking to you. I think we can use Channel 11 better with more creative programming. The mayor had some ideas that were not implemented, but I think they'd be great. Roundtables. You could have a mayor roundtable with people. You could have council roundtables. You could have community leaders, association presidents, all sorts of ideas. We've just got to start using the tools that the city already has in a better fashion.
Yes, I agree with much of what Councilmember Newton said, but I'll say that also the mayor and the council members really need to get out into the community. And I'm not talking just about the neighborhoods. I'm talking about all sorts of communities. So there are a number of clubs, for example. There are business clubs, but also clubs around the whole idea of nationality, for example. People have come in as immigrants. There are religious organizations. We just need to be visiting a lot of these different organizations that are already out there in order to encourage. On the senior center expansion at the time, the city had a lot of borrowing capacity. We had partnerships that cut our costs by 50%. We had extremely low interest rates. We were getting low construction contracts. And if my opponent wants to talk about fiscal conservatism, she supported $500,000 per year subsidy of golfers in Redgate, and we spent more than $3.3 million subsidizing golf over 10 years, and that's not fiscal conservatism.
Thank you. Well, I can tell there were questions here that I didn't know about. The League didn't know to ask, but we'll move on. Mr. Priscilla, how do you view the interaction between mayor and council members and between mayor and city staff? And if you're elected, how would you plan to be the mayor?
Yes, you've already got into my closing statement, because one of the things I have is a 4-page document about how I would go about being mayor, and there's 40 points in there. I think that we need to have a much more collaborative relationship between mayor and council members. It's just not being on the dais. It's communication. I will offer to have regular meetings with the council members. I will offer to help them with proposals even if I don't agree with them. I think a lot can be a lot better formed ahead of time. Our relationships with city staff, I think a couple of our council members have been very rude to city staff publicly in the press and in their workplace, and that's got to end. It's one of the big reasons that I helped put together Team Rockville, because of the poisonous relationship between the elected and the city staff. The elected are the policymaker, the city staff are the executors of that policy, and that's what I intend to do when I'm a mayor of Rockville.
Thank you. Ms. Newton.
Sure, thank you. In Rockville, we have a council manager form of government, which means we need to have a mayor and a city manager that work hand in hand. They are the team leaders that lead the team of the senior staff and the council. If you've got a good relationship there, we can do good things. I would stress weekly meetings with each council member were I to be elected mayor. I would stress more discussion on the dais and not so much debate. I would like to have more interaction in a calm and more generic way, and not just the stress of the meetings. I think if you want to see how certain members treat people, I think you need to watch the public hearing on September 30th. We need to respect our citizens, we need to respect each other, and we need to respect our staff.
Thank you. So this is going to be just a fast one. This goes to the ballot questions. So I'll just go back and forth, and I'll keep the same order just to go this way. Maybe you could answer all of them. The 2-year to 4-year, the presidential year elections, and increasing the number of council members. Ms. Newton.
Now that I've been on the council, I've switched my opinion. 4 years is fine, probably needed. I am not for presidential term election having the elections during the presidential election, because I believe that we want educated voters in Rockville who know Rockville's issues. It will also be very expensive to run if you're trying to be heard among all the noise of the national campaigns. And in terms of 4 to 6 members, I haven't made a decision, but with the 6 people that came out this year, I think we really want to have a competition and an actual debate about what where direction we're going to go in the city. So I'm not sure we're ready to go from 4 to 6 in that. And I would never want to see us go to districts. I think what makes Rockville great is that your council supports every community.
Thank you. Mr. Priscilla.
Yes, I will go to 4 years over 2 years, not only because of the learning term for new members, but also projects just take a while to do. You need more time to establish your relationships with county council members, county executive, state delegates. As far as the presidential years, I'm leaning against that because it would be more expensive to run. I think if we had the presidential years, we would force people into the slates. We formed a team voluntarily. We didn't have to, but I think if you had the presidential year, you would force people because you would have to reach 15,000 households instead of 5,000. As far as 6 council members, I would absolutely go for that. I think if there are more slots on the council to be had, you will not have any problem finding people running for them. We've had numerous city council candidates before. I just don't see that as a problem.
Thank you. So we're going to now move to our closing statements, and Mr. Priscilla is going to give the first closing statement.
Thank you very much. Thanks once again to the League of Women Voters, Linda Barnes for moderating, and everybody for coming. You have seen the differences between myself and Councilmember Newton. Once again, look at our records and look where we want to lead the city. I invite you to go to my website at votepriscilla.org. I have on my website a 12-page platform. I have another document. It's 4 pages of how I'd go about being mayor, and I have something up there about my accomplishments over the last 2 terms. In these uncertain times, you need a mayor you can trust, one who isn't afraid to lead, and one who knows how to get the best out of people. I will emphasize that I and John Britton were the creators of the Rockville Summit. We brought together residents, businesses, nonprofits, educational institutions, and government to talk about our future, including growth. Thanks once again for the opportunity to serve you, and please vote for Mark Priscilla for mayor of Rockville.
Thank you. Ms. Newton.
Thank you. This evening, I hope you've gotten a little better sense of who I am and what I see for Rockville's future. After living here for 32 years, Rockville is as close to a hometown as I'll ever have, and I've been actively engaged in all aspects, from boards and commissions, neighborhood associations, PTA, church, and city government. I love this city, and I've worked hard to make a difference. I haven't done it alone, and that's because I know that the best ideas are those that come from bringing all stakeholders into the process and listening to everyone's thoughts and visions. As a council member, I've been able to put into place several ideas that bring more community involvement. I've helped balance the budget 4 times without bending to pressure to raise taxes. And I've conducted myself in a manner to make my children proud. I would like to be the next mayor so that I can continue to open the dialogue, show that respecting every idea and person is how we do things in Rockville, and bring all of Rockville's communities together to reach solutions. My vision, together we can do great things, is my mantra for living in today's world. I hope that you'll agree. Thank you.
Thank you for both your candidates. I applaud your coming out and being willing to run for office. It's a part of the American experience, and it's incredibly valuable. And you're both very brave and courageous to do that. I want to thank everyone who is watching this on television and also those who came out tonight to see this debate. I encourage everyone to vote. Everyone in Rockville, that is, to vote on November 5th in the County Council, City Council, and the mayoral election. Thank you to all of the volunteers who participated in this, and to all the staff at the City of Rockville to help put this together, and also at Channel 11. Thank you so much, and remember to vote on November 5th. Thank you.
Here's a look at the candidates running for City Council this year. Councilmembers Bridget Newton and Mark Pershela are running for mayor. 6 candidates are running for 4 council seats, and they are Beryl L. Feinberg, Donald H. Don Hadley, Tom Moore, Virginia Onley, Julie Polakovich Carr, Claire Marcuccio Whitaker. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. For polling locations, special transportation options, and other election information, go online to rockvillemd.gov/election13. Keep it on Rockville 11 for the most news on the city election, including candidate statements, debates, and results.